Welcome to Deep Look, Ultiworld's weekly radio show about the current state of Ultimate. I'm the host and the editor of Ultiworld, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me, Ultiworld senior editor Keith Raynor. It is Regionals week. Super Sunday is on the horizon. Keith, we've got a lot to get to today, but first and foremost, we're into the fall, and that means the return of non-baseball pro sports. So football's back. Basketball, we got about a month until basketball's back. How's your NFL season going so far?
Well, the Falcons are scrappy, better than I might have expected, but I basically have written off this whole season anyway. So on that front, it's mostly a little dabbling in the sports betting, and that's been profitable to start the year. It's no AUDL season or anything like that. But I'll tell you, I'm definitely looking forward to basketball season in the NBA. WNBA just wrapped up. Baseball is getting down the home stretch. NHL's around the corner. I mean, we're going to be in the full calendar. Everything's going to be happening at once.
Well, it's nice
College
because
football's going on.
Ultimate kind of goes on break, but then we have these other things to keep us going through the winter time. This fall, USA Ultimate announcing the college regionals, the mixed regionals again. They've been doing that, limited uptake, but some teams have been making the mixed teams, going out playing. They're doing it as a fours competition this fall. I don't even know if people have really seen this, but they're going to do college mixed fours. So this is the thing that WIFDF came out with, 4-on-4, kind of like bigger mini, to try to be appealing to the Olympics. It didn't really work, but we now have this concept, and USAU is trying to give it a try out here at this fall mixed regionals. Is this going to be a thing, or is everybody going to just skip this?
I don't think that it's been publicized super well, so I think people may skip it by default. Like, I don't know if they would have chosen it even if they knew about it or not, but I don't think that teams really knew about it. So, I don't know that they're going to run any events at all. I have no idea. It's not something that I heard college players talking about it at all. But it's an interesting idea. Like, on the one hand, you do mixed, so your school is now able to pull from a larger pool of players. So smaller schools are able to participate. But most college teams who are like so engaged with Ultimate that they want to, have a preseason, maybe don't want to do a mixed tournament at all, but that like really bought in group, they're going to have too many people for mixed. So are they going to send like 3 or 4 teams or something like that for fours mixed? It's kind of a weird number for the type of team I would envision participating. Maybe this is supposed to be a grab for newer programs that haven't established themselves. Maybe schools where they have a team in one division but not the other. Mm-hmm. That maybe that's who they're looking to get this. But you're definitely gonna have to do a different job communicating it than how they do that for that group of people who is not going to be plugged in that way. Maybe they're doing some direct email. I don't know, but it's a weird thing. I can't really figure it out.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens. So far, just posting about asking for people to put in bids to host. We have not heard about any of the dates or anything yet. So something to keep an eye on.
I think the concept of college mixed in the fall is actually fairly intriguing on the whole, but it's just hard for me to imagine teams like really buying into it. It would have to be like a group. Teams are only going to buy into it if other teams buy into it. Like, if other people are adopting the thing, then other people will want to be engaged in it. If your friends are doing it or other competitive teams are doing it, you're going to see people you like and know and good competition, then teams might engage with it. But otherwise, like, getting it off the ground is probably the hardest part. Like, getting from zero, getting past that inertia is just like, that's the hardest part, I think.
There's something about playing small-sided Ultimate in the wintertime that I think is like a kind of appealing thing. There's a big mini tournament in New York every year for mostly club players, but there's college kids there too. And the whole city community comes out. It's just like, bring your own team, show up, play. And it's a lot of fun. Fours is a strange number though. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Let's get into regionals. It is here. We've got every single regional happening this weekend, and it should be an absolute blast as always. And we're going to take a look into every region, make our picks, talk about the potential upsets, And we're also going to name our top 5 overall most exciting divisions, within the regions. So, Keith, should we just go alpha order here?
Well, there was a thread on Twitter about alpha order. Maybe we should do reverse alpha order. This is probably not the forum that people were talking about. I think they were more referring to names, but we mix it up a little bit.
Well, all right, let's do it then. We're going to start with the Southwest in that case. And we got 2 bids in the men's division, 1 bid for mixed and 3 bids for women. We're going to keep this nice and snappy. So, Keith, take us through men's Southwest regional 2 bids.
2 bids and 2, I'd say, pretty sizable favorites. And they're the names Revolver and Condors at the top. Condors looked pretty strong at the U.S. Open, especially with all the turnover they had. They looked like a better team than I think a lot of people expected. Revolver, you know what you're going to get with them. And I don't know that there really is a compelling challenger even for these 2 teams, for these 2 bids. There's like a Berkeley Zizova, I think is how you say that. Like, they've had some okay results, I guess, but there's really nobody that you can create any real belief in that they're going to steal a spot to nationals from the men's side.
Can't argue with that. I'm taking Revolver in the first spot and Condors to get the bid out of the game to go. And I just think that even Condors missing a couple O-line guys is still going to be head and shoulders above the rest of the teams in this region.
I'm with you there. And while I think it would be fun to pick the Condors upset, I think they might be just a little too green.
I think if they had their full complement of players, it would be a very reasonable upset pick, but I don't see it happening with the
maybe at nationals,
injuries.
Maybe after a full season of development, but maybe. It wouldn't shock me if Condors finishes higher nationals than Revolver.
On to mixed, 1 bid, and this is pretty spicy. We don't see 1 bid in this region very often. I honestly, I don't remember the last time there was only 1 bid for
Used
Southwest.
to be like 4 bids.
I mean, yeah. So Polar Bears is the odds-on favorite. They're certainly the best team that we've seen so far, but there's a lot of challengers who are very capable of upsetting Polar Bears and taking the bid. Mischief, Lawless out of Arizona, Classy, who went to the Pro Champs semifinals, BW Ultimate. I mean, there's a lot of good teams, even ones that don't really get a lot of national shine. I still think Polar Bears wins, Keith, but I don't think this is going to be smooth sailing. Like, Polar Bears has not looked totally convincing to me throughout this season.
Me neither. And I think that they played Mischief head to head at US Open, which is the last chance I got to see them. And it was a 1-point win for Polar Bears. So they are probably fairly evenly matched. They had the same margin of victory in the sectional final at NorCal mixed sectionals. So they are not safe. Polar Bears is not in a safe position. I do think having Mac Taylor is a big difference, but we're probably going to get that Mac Taylor versus Keenan Lawrence matchup, the 2 big handlers for the respective teams. And yeah, Lawless, Tower, Classy, BW. I mean, this is a deep region. You can't go in there and slack off either. You could certainly end up playing out some longer games, draining your legs, or worst of all, getting upset. But I do think it's probably going to come down to Polar Bears and Mischief. And I favor Polar Bears, but it is really narrow. I could certainly see a result where they don't make it, which would be a shame. I mean, they're definitely of the caliber of the teams that'll be at nationals.
You taking Polar Bears, though?
I will take Polar Bears.
So will I. Okay, Keith, women's division.
In the women's division, we have 3 bids and 3, again, favorites. 2 teams have been consistently at nationals, and the other one's number 2 in our rankings. Number 1 and number 2 in the same region going into the postseason. That's kind of crazy to see. That may be actually the most interesting thing going on in this region will be Flipside and Fury at the top spot. Which one of them will win the region? Can Flipside really challenge Fury? This is a chance to really figure out if this team has the goods for semifinals for real. Meanwhile, Nightlock is confidently in the 3rd spot. Wildfire has really lost a lot of talent with Flipside coming on. LOL, there's always a bunch of big names on the team that are a few years past their prime. You always wonder if maybe they can pull something out, but I'm not confident. Nightlock hasn't exactly been super sound, so I do think there's something to watch for here with Wildfire and LOL, but I mostly think you're looking to see how Flipside stacks up against Fury.
Yeah, and I don't expect it to be all that close. I think Fury wins like 15-10, 15-11, something like that. But I also don't think that rules flip side out as a semis contender. I don't think I need to see them get an upset or lose on Universe in order for me to believe that they have the chance to make a deep run at Nationals. I think that's how good Fury is. The third bid, is it really all that interesting? I mean, Wildfire isn't the team they once were. I think Nightlock comfortably advances here, and I think that's your order. Fury, Flipside, Nightlock.
I'm going with the same three teams, same order.
So we're all together on this one so far. Let's move on to the Southeast. We begin in the men's division where there are two bids. There's 3 bids for mixed. There's 2 bids for women's. Men's 2 bids, Ring and Chain, are your favorites per usual. And after that, I don't really know where you go. Tenacity, RDU, there's some solid teams. It would take a lot. It would take a monumental effort to get an upset over these 2 teams. Ring of Fire, of course, winning the championship last year. There's going to be eyes set on that again. And Chain Lightning is a, borderline semis team at Nationals. This is a formality for these teams. I actually am kind of interested to watch this final. I think that Chain has a real chance to beat Ring, but I'm going to take Ring in a close one, like 13-12, to get the win over Chain.
I have no disagreements with any of that. I think that there's some competent teams in the field, but they're not at the level. Chain's been a little disappointing to me. So I would love to see them perform at a higher level, bring a really strong effort, but I'm not necessarily sold that that's what we're going to see. I feel comfortable picking Ring to win the region and Chain to advance.
Okay, Keith, how about mixed?
All right, in the mixed division, this is a long list because we have not necessarily seen teams separate themselves from the pack. There's nobody who feels super safe here. There are 3 bids up for grabs, and so the region did the work. The favorites, I guess you would say, are Durham Toro, Nashville Shine, and Huntsville Space Force. Those are the highest ranked teams. But you've got a bunch of teams in the mix. I don't even know how far down the list you want to go and feel like you have contenders. When we hear people talk about the region, they talk about Atlanta, Dirty Bird. We saw Heyday get some early season results that look kind of nice. Atlanta, there's Athens Murmur. There's a bunch of teams that are in the mix here. Charlotte Storm. It's hard to know which ones to pick. I feel pretty good about taking Toro and Shine. I think they're the most talented teams, although that has been far from the only way to get to Nationals from this region. And then for me, it comes down to Space Force and Dirty Bird. I think I'm going to take Space Force, but I can't say that I feel super confident.
This is crazy region. I feel like they've clearly earned the number of bids that they got. It is a deep region, and I'm going to actually take Shine to win. I feel like Shine is getting overlooked despite having very consistent results. I'm going to take Shine to win this region. I'm going to take Toro in the 2 spot. And is there a reason to pick against Space Force here? I think they've been clearly the 3rd best team, and I'm going to take them. So I'm going Shine, Toro, Space Force.
All right, very similar. But we finally got a little bit of differentiation.
Yes.
Women's division.
Yep.
Phoenix going to be the big favorite in this 2-bid region. And I think a lot of the questions are going to come down to that second spot. And if you're familiar with Southeast Women's, you'll be familiar with this storyline. Florida Tabby Rosa against Atlanta Ozone. Which one's the favorite has changed over the years, but Ozone in a bit of a youthful phase. Tabby also lost some key players, so I don't think that this is a runaway. I certainly think you could go either way, but Tabby to me has been the stronger team, has had more chances to build with their performance at Worlds. So I'm going to take Tabby over this young Ozone group.
Ozone beat Tabby back in July. Terminus, kind of preseason-ish. And honestly, Ozone acquitted themselves pretty nicely at Elite Select Challenge. They got some wins. They lost decently close to good teams like Sixers and Parcha. They crushed at sectionals. I really like the young talent coming out of the area in Atlanta. And this is all to say, I'm going to take Ozone. I'm going to take Phoenix to win the region, of course. and I'm going to take Ozone to get that second bid and beat out Tabby Rosa. They already got the win over them this season, Keith.
It's true. It's true. So this is our first actual difference of teams making it to nationals, but we're only 2 regions in, so plenty of room for us to build up more differentiation and get some spikes.
We'll see. Here we go. South Central, 2 bids men, 2 bids mixed, 1 bid in the women's division. Is there really anything to talk about in the men's division? Bravo and Double Wide are your bid earners. Bravo's way better than Double Wide. Double Wide's way better than everybody else. I honestly don't even think there's anybody else who's even in the conversation, Keith. It's a bit of a down year for the kind of like the second tier teams in the South Central. I do not see an upset happening here. Double Wide beating Bravo would be the spiciest thing that could happen in this region. And I don't think that's happening either.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. There's one place where we're going to get some interest in the South Central. This one will be a quick region to go through, I think, for the most part.
Well, let's go to women's.
Double Wide.
Yeah, let's go to women's before we go to mixed, because there's maybe even less to say about the women's division.
I mean, what's the max number of goals you think Molly Brown will concede this weekend?
Well, what's the format? How many teams are in this region?
That's a fair question. They have another ranked team in the region.
Because last year, right? Was it last year when they just won one game? That was insane. There are 8 teams this year, which I'm very glad to see that. That's great news.
Yes.
So they are playing regular pool play. Molly Brown will play Vengeance, Jackwagon, and Trainwreck in pool play. And then they go to a full 8-team bracket. Wow. So, it's going to be 6 games for Molly. But I like it. It means that these other teams, who are all going to get crushed by Molly, will get a full experience. The 2 seed in this region is Colorado Small Batch, and they're not a bad team. They're not a bad team, but they're not going to beat Molly Brown. They lost to them 15-4 at sectionals.
That's all you got to say. I'll be surprised if Molly Brown gives up more than that 4 in any game this weekend.
You do have, is Vengeance the Austin team? Yes.
Yes.
I mean, they lost a game at sectionals, but then they beat that same team, Crush City, in the final. They're not going to compete with Molly, but I hope that this is the future of another resurgent, strong, Austin-based women's team.
That would be great to see. We've had so many great rivalries between the Colorado and Texas South Central area teams, so would love to see that return. But
nobody thought Showdown was going to challenge Molly. Was it 2019 that this happened? When it was like, oh my God, Showdown might beat them. And it came down to the wire. I think went to Universe. And that was for the 1 bid. I don't think that's going to happen this year.
In this life. That's why they play the games, Charlie.
That's why they play the games.
That's what they say.
Play games. Okay, let's go to mixed. Keith, take us through it.
All right. In the mixed division, there are 2 bids up for grabs. And there are a number of strong candidates to try and take those bids. Fort Collins Shame and Dallas Public Enemy, strongest regular season teams. I think they'll be the favorites going into this, but I don't think anybody's going to be overlooking Love Tractor or potentially Austin Waterloo. They've been a bit inconsistent, but I think the ceiling there is there to upset teams that have also been inconsistent, like Public Enemy and Shame. So this is I think one of the most interesting regions. Just to give you a little preview, a spoiler, this is probably going to make my top 5. I mean, it's going to be in contention for sure.
Well, it's certainly interesting. I think if Public Enemy had continued to play poorly the way that they did at US Open, then you might say, okay, this is like more open. But now I have a hard time seeing Love Tractor, Waterloo getting the upset here. Waterloo lost by 5, 13-8 to Love Tractor at sectionals. So, look, at the end of the day, I'm going to take Shame. I'm going to take Public Enemy. But this is a known volatile region. We have seen crazy stuff happen here. We have seen the obvious teams like Love Tractor for years get upset at regionals. So I won't be shocked if the tables turn this time and it's Public Enemy on the losing side.
I mean, even like what like the 6 seed, like Flight Club, like they have nice wins on the year. You know what I mean? Like this is volatile is a great word for what we could see in the action in South Central. And because of that, I feel like I just can't take the top two teams.
Oh, wow.
Not only are you talking volatility, but you're talking mixed division. I'm going to take Shame and I'm going to take Love Tractor.
Wow.
To get in. It's time to spice it up.
Well, I mean, Love Tractor's delivered the blows. They've taken the L's, they've gotten
they
the L, or they've gotten the W's. So like, I like it. All right, 4 regions down, 4 to go. Don't go anywhere. Our regionals breakdown continues after this.
Time to talk about our friends at Sunset Lake CBD. Now, they run a hemp farm located just outside of Burlington, Vermont. For years, Sunset Lake produced milk for Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and in 2019, they diversified and started growing hemp for CBD. They believe that their farm-table approach is the best way for you to get responsibly produced, high-quality CBD products that work, like their topicals, gummies, oils, and more. And those can help you with stress, with aches, with sleep. And those are some of the main ways that I use them, particularly the stress for me. Being a new dad, it can really put me through the ringer. And tell you what, Miles is starting to hit the phase where he has opinions about things. He has preferences, and he is voicing those preferences. Many of them are to not put on his clothes. Doesn't want to put on the clothes, but he doesn't want to leave where he wants to go. It can be stressful dealing with a toddler temper tantrum. So some Sunset Lake CBD gummies come in handy when I am feeling on edge a little bit. The nerves are going, getting a little frayed. They can help keep everybody relaxed and calm, namely me, so that I can try to be the best dad that I can, even as my toddler son is throwing a fit. So helpful to have Sunset Lake on hand. And if you want to get some of the benefits of having a Sunset Lake product for you, then you can check them out at sunsetlakecbd.com and use our coupon code DEEPLOOK. That's one word, DEEPLOOK, and get 20% off all products at Sunset Lake CBD, farmer-owned, Vermont-grown.
Welcome back to Deep Look. 4 regions down, 4 to go. We will pick it up with the Northwest. 2 bids for the men, 3 bids in the mixed division, and 3 for the women's division. Keith, men's up first. Take us through it.
Well, in the men's division, we have just a couple of bids, but you got Rhino in the first seed, Sockeye in the second seed. I don't know which of those teams you think might be the favorite. You got to think at least one of them, if not both of them, are going. The potential challengers, Furious is a team we know is strong, but they are on the outside looking in. And then after that, you have some of your usual cast of potential upset teams. Emerald City, who's been trying to get in for a number of years. Pando could be the best of those challengers. Could we see anything from Dark Star? Maybe. So Furious, they're going to need an upset to get in. And Sockeye, while they look a little bit weaker than usual, we've seen some inconsistency from Rhino, but those teams are so talented. Hard to really feel like you can count on Furious to get those upsets.
Here's the thing that's interesting about this. Rhino getting the 1 seed. We talk about the regular season feeling like it doesn't matter that much to the top teams. So here is an example of why it matters. Rhino outplaying Sockeye this season, and that means that they get a much easier path into the final because they're doing 2 pools of 5, and the pool winners go straight to finals. Everybody else has to go into backdoor game to go bracket. So Rhino's toughest matchup is Pando. Sockeye's got to play Furious. And if you're just casual this year, you're not really paying that much attention to Club Ultimate, you might be like, Sockey's just going to walk over them. I don't think so. I think that this game actually has the potential to be very interesting. Sockeye is the better team, sure. Sockeye will be probably more focused, and we've seen them from them earlier this year, yes. But Furious is good. Furious is a solid team. And so a much tougher challenge there for Sockeye. They got to win that game to avoid getting sent into the long road through the game to go.
Yeah, I think Furious is a pretty good chance of being the best team, not a Nationals. I got to take Rhino and Sockeye still. But
you taking them in that order? Or are you going to take Sockeye with the upset? You want to call it that?
I'm taking Rhino to hold seed here to finish first.
I think Sockeye is going to bounce back after kind of a bumpy year. I think Sockeye will win the region. and Rhino will finish second.
Understandable. I think I also could see a Sockeye bounce back, but I'm going to hold that for later in the year.
All right. Mixed division. We got 3 bids. BFG, Mixtape, and Red Flag are your bid earners. Moondog will be a very legitimate challenger. There's some other good teams in the region as well. I think the biggest interesting thing here is, well, first your question, like, is Moondog going to, or is Red Flag going to qualify? Conversely, is Moondog going to qualify? And then what's the order of these teams? Like, yet again, Mixtape loses to BFG at sectionals. Is BFG back to full strength? I mean, they looked kind of bad at Worlds, if I'm being honest. And of course, they're coming off their national championship win. So who wins this region? Does Red Flag get through? Yeah, I think this is an interesting region. This is one of the most interesting for me.
I think that this is fascinating. And when I look at regionals, there's kind of 2 types of regionals. There's who's going to win regionals and who's going to qualify regionals. Like regionals where you feel like you know the teams that are going to make it, but you're curious about the order they're going to finish in. So maybe not even necessarily who's going to win. It could be who's going to finish second or third. But you know the teams who are going. Then you get the ones where it's like, okay, who's going to actually qualify? Like who's going to get their way in?
Right.
Which I think are probably the most exciting ones. You get both here in the Northwest. You know, you have 2 teams that are potential title contenders trying to vie for the top spot in this region and establish themselves as that spot. I mean, they could be the number 1 seed going to nationals. That's what they could be playing for. So there's a lot on the line for these 2 teams, even if there's not a lot of doubt about whether or not they're going to make it to nationals. And then you get Moondog and Red Flag. We know basically nothing about Red Flag other than what we saw at Worlds, which is that they were talented. If a bit one note, have they been working on that? Like, what's their buy-in level? We don't really even know. Meanwhile, Moondog, they're 17-6 this year. I think they've got not the most convincing results. You're not like, wow, this is a team that's going to get directly into quarters or anything, but yeah, they've beaten Shame. They lost to Hybrid in a close game. They beat Lawless, like teams that we are talking about in other parts of this podcast. So they are not to be overlooked. And honestly, I think I'm going to take them to qualify. I think Red Flag kind of just showing up and stealing a bid. Yeah, that's a classic Canadian trope, but save that for the Northeast. I don't know whether this team has been practicing or not, or what their level is going to look like. So I'm going to take the known quantity here, Moondog. It's
pretty interesting, isn't it? I need to correct myself. I said Red Flag earned the bid, but no, they didn't play enough games. They just showed up for sectionals. Moondog earned the bid. Moondog is a 3 seed. So Red Flag has a more talented roster than Moondog. I mean, they have some of the best players in Vancouver on their team. But it's hard to argue with what you've just said, Keith. On the other hand, we didn't know much about them going into Worlds either. I don't think anybody had Red Flag on their radar as a team that was going to end up in the final. And yes, sure. I mean, they got their doors blown off by Mixtape, but they beat a lot of good teams along the way. They played a lot closer with Mixtape at sectionals for whatever that's worth. Score was 12-9. And they got comfortable wins over everybody else. I think that they're legit. I'm going to take Mixtape to win the region, BFG to finish second, and I think that Red Flag is going to beat Moondog in the game to go.
It's very possible. I mean, I can't say that I'm planting a strong flag on this one, but I'm going to take the team that we've seen, and yeah, Moondog has put up solid results. It's not like they're just squeaking in and don't really deserve it. They're a good team. I think that they have the goods.
I think they're going to get sniped by a team that could have possibly earned a 4th bid.
Very, very, very possible.
All right, women's division. Schwa, Riot, Traffic are your top 3 teams for 3 bids. The question will be, can Seattle Underground make a push past one of these programs? Now, overall, I would say like the level of this region has dipped a little bit. Riot's certainly not the team that they once were. Traffic has not been as good with Chewy hurt this season. And Schwa has had moments. They got that win over Phoenix, but it was kind of a meaningless game for Phoenix. And they haven't looked quite as good as they did at their peak when we saw them make it to semis in 2019. So I think ultimately, though, for the regionals purposes, it's hard for me to see Underground upsetting any of these teams. And at the end of the day, I think it pretty much goes chalky. The question I have in my mind is, does Traffic beat Riot? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say it goes Schwa, Traffic, Riot, Keith.
I have no real faith that Underground is going to put it together, even though they actually have had a pretty solid season. They've beaten some of the challenger teams that we have been talking about through some of the other regions. So they're not pushovers or anything, but I just think they're a bit out of their depth with this level of competition. But I could also see a convincing order for any of the top 3 teams. But I think finally I'm going to arrive at the same one as you. I think I'm going to go with Schwa, Traffic, Riot. I don't know. Do we know if Chewy's just done, or is she going to potentially be back? Like I don't think we know what Catherine Menzies' status is. Do we?
I can't say that I know, but I believe that she had a season-ending knee surgery at Worlds.
Okay, got it.
Or knee injury. I said surgery, but I don't know the status of specifically.
Okay. Well, if there's a chance that she plays, that certainly gives you more upside with Traffic. But they've also had all season to kind of work out some of the kinks. So I'm going to take Traffic over Riot, but I foresee a very close matchup between those two.
The teams did not play at sectionals because the final was canceled, I think due to wildfire smoke. So Traffic does have a pair of wins over Riot from Solstice.
It's a long time ago.
I mean, might as well not exist. I mean, I think on the whole, Traffic's results from sectionals look a little stronger than Riot's, for whatever that's worth. Okay, Northeast. 2 bids. This has got to be the fewest bids I've seen in the Northeast in aggregate in a long time.
Surely it's because the Northeast is just not as competitive this year, right? They're just not that good. Is that what it is?
I think that's what it is. I don't know if there's any good teams here, Keith.
Yeah, I think we could just gloss over,
We might as well just go ahead and move on to the North Central, a much stronger, deeper region than the Northeast.
A lot of competition.
So men's division, here you go. Your top teams are New York Pony, world champion right now at the World Clubs. Runners up last year to Ring of Fire. And Dig, who has continued on their upward trajectory and are starting to look like a very solid Boston men's program once again. And then you have just a ton of good teams behind these two. Sprout is very good. Goat, you've got Blueprint, you've got Tire Biz Frizz, who just showed up at sectionals and looked great. I'm not even going to be able to name all the teams. Like I think is it 8 top 35 teams in the men's division in the Northeast? It's pretty crazy, Keith.
It is, but at the top, I feel like there's a pretty good gap between most of the teams and the teams that are competing for nationals. Like maybe the tiers kind of blend together at the margins. So like when you're talking about a Sprout or a Goat, like maybe they could be challenged by one of the teams down the line, but I don't think any of those teams are challenging Pony or Dig. Dig has been, to me, one of the biggest surprises in the entire division with how good that they've been. But I do think that Sprout and Goat and potentially Tire Biz Frizz are scary for particularly Dig if they run into them in the wrong state.
What's funny is that it's actually been Pony that's been the team that has like almost missed nationals a couple times. Like Sprout almost got him a couple years ago. It was crazy. I don't think that this year's Pony team is going to have that problem, but it is possible. And it's if you count Red Circus, who didn't have a ranking because they didn't play during the regular season, there are 9 top 35 teams in the men's division in the Northeast. Phoenix as well. And I think I mentioned all the other ones until Big Wrench at 33, Lantern at 35. So
I wonder how much connectivity there is there. I wonder how bubbled that is.
That's a good question. I mean, a lot of these teams have played out of region though, Keith.
That's good.
Anyway, at the end of the day, do you really see this going any other way than Pony Dig for the bids? I think that the battle in this region is going to be for who gets the top select spot. Who gets into the game to go? That's the real intrigue. I don't see Dig losing to one of these teams.
I don't think I do either. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if Dig is closer to Pony at regionals than the other teams are to Dig.
Right.
Like it wouldn't shock me if we're, looking at the Twitter updates and it's Pony Dig 12-12 in the game to 15. Like that would not surprise me. So yeah, I'm taking Pony and Dig in that order, and maybe there'll be some drama along the way, but I don't know that any of that drama is going to result in an upset. Sprout has some talent, but I just don't think there's enough defensive chops on that team.
Yeah. Did Bag qualify for regionals?
Did they?
Bag. Okay, let's move on. Mixed division, Keith. It's a wild one. 2 bids.
2 bids and 3, I think, of the most convincing teams. Sprocket basically losing the bid at the Pro Championships on the last day, losing to Public Enemy. So they're on the outside as Exist and Slow have claimed the bids, but that indicates just how close to those other teams Sprocket is. When they're playing well, they have the capability to beat Exist and Slow, and then the rest of the region, there's some depth here, some potential traps. A team like Darkwing or Wild Cards way down this year, but are they that bad, or could they pop up at regionals and be dangerous? What about this Boston practice squad people are talking about with practice players from other teams? That
Look out.
Pretty good at sectionals. Like, are they the sleeper team? I don't know. I have a trouble seeing any of those teams winning a spot at nationals, but throwing somebody else off track definitely seems like it's a potentiality for them. Picking the 2 that I feel like are going to advance is pretty tricky though.
It's tough.
I think I'm gonna go Exist and Slow in that order.
Slow did beat Sprocket at sectionals. Oh man. Exist is 1-1 against Slow this season. They're 1-0 against Sprocket. Those games back from middle July at Boston Invite. Sprocket is an interesting team though, Keith. They're very hot and cold. I feel like they're capable of winning this region, and I also think they could miss nationals. I'm like wondering, like, do I trust Exist? Like that's the question in my mind. I think Slow's going to nationals. They always go to nationals. They're going to go to nationals again this year. In fact, I'm going to go so far as to say that they're going to win the region. And my question is, is that big group, who gets a shot at Exist, and can they win the game? Look, I've been riding for Exist this season, but I have not been super inspired by recent results. I'm going to take Sprocket. I'm going to take Slow and Sprocket, and Exist stays home.
Wow. Yeah, that's such a come down from where you were early in the year.
I know.
I think Exist is the most talented team. So that's the tiebreaker here for me, because I do think that these 3 teams are very closely matched, but I think that Exist has the most talent.
I think that's fair. It's a fair way to look at it, but I'm sticking with it. Women's division. You've got Sixers is your favorite here for sure, especially with the way things looked for Brute Squad at the Pro Championships. They are the second bid earner. Then you got a bunch of solid teams behind them. You've got Iris and Bent and Siege. This is not Brute's region anymore. I think that Sixers is probably the favorite. They won the region back in 2019 before Brute went on to win the national championship that year. And then no Sixers in the series last year. So we haven't seen Sixers back, at the show since 2019. I think that they're going to win this region comfortably, Keith. I think that they are clearly the best team here. As much as I'd love to talk myself into somebody upsetting Brute, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think it goes Sixers Brute, and it's pretty straightforward.
I think you're going to see I think you're going to see a response from Brute. I think Brute's going to be tired of people disrespecting them. So I think that they're going to step it up. I'm actually going to take them to upset Sixers to win the region. And I think these 2 teams are going to be a good distance away from the likes of Bent and Siege and Iris, who are teams that are good enough to be at nationals, but weren't good enough to get the bids. And so they'll have to watch Sixers and Brute take those spots.
All right, let's move on to the North Central. Men's division has one bid, 3 for the mixed, 1 for the women's. In the men's division, Mad Men is your bid earner. Are they the favorite?
No.
You don't think so?
Not.
You think should be sub?
No. Mallard 2. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what I'm talking about either. I forgot about them, Keith.
Mallard 2 has to be your favorite, but I don't know if Mallard 2's given me the confidence to pick them to get out of this region. I think Sub and MM are good challengers for them. Maybe it's a good matchup, but I think more about who.
I mean, it's 4D chess for Mallard to take the next set of players after Mallard won, and the development that they do on the team. It's really remarkable what they've been able to achieve. Ultimately, I'm still taking Sub-Zero to win this region. I mean, this is a brutal region this year. I mean, the whole North Central is kind of down. I mean, the mixed division's holding its own for sure, but I think Sub-Zero wins over Mad Men in a close game in the final.
I have the same result. I think that Sub-Zero is going to have learned from the challenges of the year. Still a talented team. Still have the most depth. So I'm going to take Sub-Zero.
Mixed division, Keith, 3 bids.
Mixed division. Yeah, 3 bids. We're still not quite sure how it happened, but I guess KCU, Kansas City United, had a strong enough year. So they're one of the 3 bid earners, along with Minneapolis Dragon Thrust and Madison Noise. And you have a long list of challengers, some of whom are way down in the seeding. Minneapolis No Touching, Chad Larson Experience out of Ames. I mean, those are, I think, the 2 names that are probably the best known. But I just don't know. I mean, based on what we've seen from those teams, yeah, when they're hot, it can work out for them. But I just don't know if there's enough fresh legs, enough buy-in from them against teams that are really motivated to be there. So I think Kansas City's done enough to inspire my faith in them. I'm going to take Dragon to beat Noise. Actually, you know what? I'm going to flip that. I'm going to go with Noise over Dragon for a little upset, and then I'll have Dragon KCU.
Yeah, Noise and Dragon. It's an interesting matchup. I just fully expect that to be the final. I don't know who I think is going to win that game. I coming to the season, I thought, Dragon was really going to take a step back, and I think they've taken a little bit of a step back, but not a big one. And Noise has not looked as good as I expected. So do I expect regression to the mean here? Ultimately, I think I'm going to take Dragon. I'm going to take Dragon to beat Noise. And in that third spot, it's quite interesting, isn't it? KCU feels very susceptible to me. But CLX isn't good enough to beat them, but I think No Touching is. That's the interesting thing. I think No Touching is good enough to beat them. You know what? Banana Stand's coming back to Nationals, baby.
Wow.
Give me No Touching. Give me No Touching.
I like it.
So yeah, I'll take Dragon over Noise, and then No Touching taking the third bid. No Touching was in the semifinals of the U.S. Open. Don't forget.
I think we're overinflating them based on that specific result.
You might be right, but you're telling me that KCU is like a lock? Come on.
I get your skepticism. I get it, but I'm playing my flag on this one. KCU.
All right,
baby.
All right. Women's Division 1 bid. Pop is your bid earner. You've also got Heist, Stellar, other teams in the mix. But Pop is clearly the best team in this region. It's not close. This is not like it once was. Heist is nowhere near the team that they used to be. And so I'm going to take Pop comfortably.
Me too. I don't even think I feel confident Heist is going to be in the final with Pop. I think Stellar probably has a better chance of that. They're the higher ranked team, but by one spot. It's very close. But I don't think either of these teams is going to beat Pop. So I will have Pop confidently as my winner.
Am I being crazy not to take Kansas City? I mean, they're number 9 in the Frisbee rankings.
No, they're not very convincing. They didn't make the semis of U.S. Open. So I think you gotta stick with it.
Banana Stand.
Yeah, I mean, you already proclaimed Banana Stand.
I did. Yeah, I mean, solid results. I feel like top 10 is a little overrating them, but
I think that's
anyway.
true.
Look, I'm taking No Touching. It's done deal. Two more to go. Great Lakes, 2 men's, 1 mixed, 1 women's.
Wait, are you sure? 2? 2 men's?
Two. I said it. It's
like,
true.
Like more than one.
It's not a typo.
Wow. Great Lakes, great times.
Actually, everybody, it's like after Machine, it's going to feel like the Metro East, where it's like everyone believes they could be the one. Machine is, of course, the heavy favorite. They will certainly win all their games on Saturday. We'll see what happens on Sunday. And then Omen is the other bid earner out of Ohio. And they've played some close games, though, with some other teams in the field, including Colonels and Trident. So Omen certainly, I think, has proven that they are the second best team in the region, but there's not a lock. Keith, who are you going to take here? Are you going to take Omen to do it?
Oh, yeah. I want to, I want to believe that Omen is the best team. They have the best results thus far, but like, it's like they're trying to mess it up sometimes, like they're shaking your faith at every turn. But like, who else are you going to buy? That's the hard part. It's like, who else are you going to be like, wow, this seems like the team to take them down. Like you just can't pick the field. You know what I mean? If I could pick the field versus Omen, I might do it. But I think I got to take Omen because there's just nobody else who feels like they are the best case to take down Omen. I don't even know where Lombard is, Charlie.
I just think here's what reminds me of, right? We don't know much about this Omen team yet, but there have been good Ohio men's club teams in the past. There is no reason that they can't have one now in 2022. So I think they're just good, and they kind of went out and proved that at Elite Select. So give me Omen. I'm going to take Machine to win the region, of course, and I'll take Omen to finish second.
Have we confirmed that this region will not mess up Super Sunday? Are we going to get full on Super Sunday? This is the one region that I don't actually know when it's scheduled.
I haven't actually seen it on the board yet
because it's not on USA Ultimate's website. So
it's not even on the website at all.
It's not on the main like regionals calendar page. Not in the I haven't gone into Score Reporter. But on Score Reporter, there's no like schedule competition. There are some other regions that haven't yet posted their brackets or teams or anything. But I think that Great Lakes men's is listed to be like at a date that it clearly isn't, which is it's listed as 2 weekends from now. It's listed as the first. So,
oh, interesting. Okay, well, so not totally Super Sunday. Well, we're previewing it now anyway. I hate that. Why'd they do that?
I hate it too. We want Super Sunday. Give me the full thing.
Well, we're gonna do a little look ahead.
Yes.
Anyway,
how much is really gonna change?
Well, nothing. Sectionals is already over. Mixed division, 1 bid. Keith, take us through it.
So the mixed division, you have to feel like Hybrid's your big favorite here. I mean, this is an elite team in a 1 bid region. So you're really asking yourself, like, who's the top select team? Who are the best challengers? Crocs is the other ranked team. Could there be some late comers to the party that could try and spoil things for Crocs? That part's a little more unsure. I know that many years ago, U54 showed up and kind of threw things into disarray. And so anytime they appear, everybody kind of freaks out because, there's a lot of names, if you've been following, Midwest Club Ultimate or anything. Do we believe in this team?
There wasn't a team as good as Hybrid in the field back then.
Right. I don't think that they're a real threat to take the bid to nationals. Maybe they could take the top select slot. Like, is Parlay that good? They're 22-3, but did they beat anybody along the way? Like, yeah, they beat some close games against regional teams, I guess. Yeah, there's still really not that much to be impressed about on their resume either. This is going to be Hybrid's region, and the rest of the drama you can just save for your regional interests.
Yeah, I mean, Crocs will try to put up a fight, but Hybrid's too good to lose this region. I'm taking Hybrid. Women's division, 1 bid. Nemesis will be the favorite for sure. They're the bid earner. You've got Rival, not the team they once were. Indy Rogue as well. Nemesis has not been super impressive this season, but I still think that they're kind of head and shoulders above the rest of this region, Keith. So I'm taking them to claim the bid.
I talked about it when we talked about Pro Champs. I want to believe this Nemesis team is ready to take a step forward, but they seem so hesitant. The foot just won't move. So they are still, to me, a cut above the rest of this region. I would not be surprised if they get a little more pushed than I would like to see, just because I guess I'm used to the disappointment.
Keith.
But they just blew out. Rogue just got blown out. So
15-1 at sectionals.
I'm not scared of Rogue, but maybe they get a push from Rival. So I'm taking Nemesis though. There's just no doubt.
Yeah, me too. All right, that brings us to.
That's exactly what you say before we get the stupid upset and we get chirped out on Twitter. But
hey, you know what? If you get an upset like that, you deserve it. You deserve it.
Yes,
you deserve
no
to
doubt.
at DeepLookPod on Twitter or send us an email, deeplook@ultiroll.com. Mid-Atlantic, last but not least. I don't know how they ended up in this spot in the order because Great Lakes is earlier in the alphabet, Keith, but
that is true.
They got put first in the list, so that's where they ended up in our conversation. And we are going to talk about 3 men's, 1 mix, 2 women's. And let's begin in the men's division. Keith, take it away.
They got first because they were Great Lakes wasn't on the page.
So that's right. That's right.
That's a clerical error. All right, so on to Mid-Atlantic in the men's. 3 bids in men's division. And the 3 teams that earned those bids, Truck, who's been one of the most impressive teams in the field, Vault, one of the big surprises of the year, and then Temper, who, hasn't exactly blown the doors off or anything, but they've been pretty solid. And it's hard to see another team that you really feel like is at the level to be a challenger here. Phantom, Garden State, those are your probably typical competitors, but I don't feel like these are teams that have shown us the flashes that have sometimes marked these Mid-Atlantic teams. So I feel pretty comfortable taking Truck and Vault. I'm actually going to take Temper to take the second spot, but Vault to make it. They haven't quite been there before. They've played a lot of these game to goes, but haven't really gotten the win. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them get put a little scared in themselves.
I am also going to take those 3 teams, but I actually do think Vault's legit. I think they're going to get that second spot. They'll lose in the final to Truck Stop. Vault beat Truck earlier this season. That was a nice opening salvo to the year, and it confirmed all of my pre-existing biases against Truck. And then Truck was like, no, wait a minute, we're actually the best team in the country. So I look, Vault's good, but Truck has been just so sharp. Their offense has been untouchable this season. So I'm taking Truck, Vault, Temper in that order.
All right, mixed division, single bid. Philadelphia Amps in the region. So what more is there to say? There are good teams in this region behind Amp. Jug Handle, Rally, Fleet, Loco. There are teams that are worthy of mention, but they're just not in the same league as Amp. Now, the caveat here is that Amp just barely beat Jug Handle at sectionals.
It's sectionals. Right.
It is sectionals. But 10-9, that's a close score. Does that give you any pause? Does that make you nervous at all?
No. Someone probably had a wedding. I mean, sorry. I just don't put any stock in sectionals results like that. If you get a really lopsided score, that's one thing, but I really don't think that anybody's going to be able to beat Amp here.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Amp's top 5 team, and everybody else is in the 20s.
Right.
Okay, so we can move on to the women's division. 3 bids: Scandal, Grit, and Parcha in that order. But do not sleep on Flight. As I get done telling you why you should ignore sectionals results, Flight beats Parcha at sectionals. Now Parcha was missing some folks, so again, I don't really think that I put that much stock into it, but Flight is good enough to be in the conversation here. They're ranked 22 in the country right now. It doesn't feel impossible that Philly team could beat one of Grit or Parcha. It's not impossible, but certainly those top big 3 are the favorites.
They sure are. And Scandal, I think, is a step step above. We've seen them have some dramatic matchups with teams in the region, and like I know there's hype around Parcha that I think still exists from last year. And Scandal had some disappointing moments at the Pro Champs, but I also think that they looked like they're clearly the best team. I think you'd have to go on a really long limb to paint another team as the favorite to win this region. So I feel pretty confident putting Scandal in the first spot. And then I'm going to take Parcha. I know they disappointed against Flight, but I think that, given the folks that they were missing, that they've shown this year that they have high upside that I'm not sure that we've seen from the other teams in the region. So maybe that doesn't come to bear regionals, but I feel like that's something worth betting on. Grit. I think Grit's a team that people aren't very familiar with. So let's take a look at the resume. They have a 9-6 win over Flight at the Select Flight Invite, and a 12-8 win over Flight. So you got to feel like they're in a good position to beat Flight. They also beat Nemesis, Siege, Bent this year, very early in the year, but did beat them, and lost to Parcha 10-8. So that gives you a sense of where they're at. They also lost to Scandal 13-10 at sectionals. So Grit is a legit team. I know they're not a team that has a lot of national notoriety, but they're pretty good. I think they're going to get a real good test from Flight, but I'm going to take Grit to advance. I think they've, having the edge over Flight in a couple of matchups is already a strong place to be. And, I think Flight's run it at sectionals is commendable, but I'm not sure that I'm buying it.
Yeah, I'm also going to take Parcha to beat Grit. And I just think it's hard for a second team out of a city to beat first teams out of other cities. That's just just a general thing that I will always say. It's pretty rare. It happens, but it's rare. Parcha's had a little bit of a, really what it looks like to me is that Parcha has been unfocused since Worlds. And that's to be expected. Teams that go to Worlds, like many of them took a bunch of weeks off, didn't practice that much. And so I expect Parcha to come back out with renewed focus at regionals and take care of business. I still think Scandal's the best team in this region, so I'm taking them to win it. And I have Grit over Flight in the game to go.
So that is every region run down. Where are we differing, Charlie?
Well, let's take a look. We didn't differ at all in Mid-Atlantic or the Great Lakes.
Some ordering, but
a little bit here and there. I have no touching in the North Central mix. You have Kansas City.
I have some touching.
I have Sprocket. You have Exist. You have Exist winning the region. I have Exist missing. I mean, I think that speaks to the volatility of the Northeast mix that we could end up in such different spots. I have Sixers winning. Do you have Brute? You have Brute winning the region over Sixers? Is that right?
I do.
Oh, wow. That's surprising. Okay. And then I've got Sockeye winning the Northwest men's. You have Rhino winning. You have Moondog making nationals. I have Red Flag making nationals out of the Northwest mix. I have Public Enemy. You have Love Tractor in South Central mixed. And then I have Ozone. You have Tabby. And that's it. But that's a decent amount of differentiation for a typical regionals. Was that like
four or five teams difference? It's pretty good.
I think so. So now it's time to run down our most exciting regions to pay attention to. We'll start with number 5. I'm going with South Central mixed. Again, I have Shame and Public Enemy, but you've got a bunch of teams, Love Tractor, Waterloo, that could be in the mix there. And it feels like there's a lot of inconsistency from all those teams. So it should be fun.
I think I'm going to put Northeast men's at 5. I just think, while I know that there's really good teams in the field, I just feel like Dig and Pony have separated themselves, but you cannot be sure. We're so used to the craziness that happens in Devons. And like we said, it is a deep field. You're going to get tested round after round. So I'm going to have Northeast men's at 5.
You are not high enough on Pony and Dig. I think this will not be very interesting this year. Spoken as somebody who goes to Devons and has seen it all go down. Number 4 for me is Southeast mixed. You've got Toro, Shine, Space Force, Murmur, Heyday, Dirty Bird. It's a bunch of teams, and like outside of Toro and Shine, you don't necessarily trust anybody that much. Should be fun with only 2 bids.
I think I'm gonna go also with Southeast mixed for all the same reasons. I really feel unsure about who's gonna make it, and that's very rarely the case in so many of these regions. Like I feel pretty confident in a lot of those, and yeah, I might get some wrong, but it just doesn't speak to a lot of drama. Here, I think you have a bunch of potential teams of very similar levels and a lot of bids. So, and we also get a battle potentially of the top teams. If we get Shine versus Toro, I don't know who's really the favorite in that matchup. I mean, that feels like a pick 'em on the line. So I've got Southeast mixed is my next one.
Number 3 for me is Northwest men's. I really think that there's enough intrigue with Furious, Pando, Emerald City to challenge Sockeye and Rhino that's going to be pretty interesting. So to me, that's the one that's going to be interesting, not Northeast men's, Keith. So that's who I've got number 3.
We see this one alike. I have a bunch of, I have probably like 8 regions that I'm like trying to pick between. Maybe I don't even like them that much. Okay. I'm going to go with South Central mixed. I do think I have the big upset that I picked there. I think that you've got really 4 credible teams that could take the spots, and nobody feels like they're so far away that they're untouchable. Yeah, I think Shame is the favorite, but it's Shame, right? Like the inconsistency comes with the territory. We've seen them disappoint before, but they have the most talented roster. But I think you got a lot of potential competition. So I'm going to take South Central mixed as my next one.
Number 2 for me is Great Lakes men's. Yep. I mean, what's going to happen? I know we got to wait a week, but is Omen have it? It's going to be fun to find out.
That is spicy. I never would have thought Great Lakes men's, especially not maybe with one bid and they have somebody upset somebody at sectionals. How did we get here? 2 bid Great Lakes men's is just boggles the mind. All right. I think I'm going to take Northeast mixed for my number 2. We talked about it. You have a real dramatic situation where we have a team. I have a team that's winning and you have them missing nationals. I mean, that is what we're dealing with here. 3 really high quality teams and then a pretty deep field behind that. So, Devens, all eyes on Devens.
Number 1 for me, well, you just explained why. Northeast mixed is my number 1. I think it's going to be wild. It's always wild. And with only 2 bids, I think it's going to be extra crazy this year.
It's a great place to take away a bid. Let's get it dramatic. My number 1 going to be Northwest mix. I kind of laid out the case while we were doing the preview pod, but you get both sides of it. You get the elite competition, potentially the number 1 seed on the line with BFG and Mixtape, and then you get the who's going to make nationals between Red Flag and Moondog. And on top of that, I think in a ideal scenario, given the inconsistency we've seen from BFG and Mixtape, and the strong potential that you have in a team like Red Flag or Moondog, you could even see one of those teams taking the second or upsetting somebody there. So a lot of drama for me in the Northwest. It's got it all. So I'm taking Northwest mix as my number 1 most exciting region. Honorable mentions: Southwest mix, Mischief and Polar Bears going at it. The Mac Taylor Bowl or whatever you want to call it.
Winner gets Mac Taylor next season.
Or you just get him. Like whoever, Mac Taylor's going to nationals. Just lock it in. If Classy wins the region, they're taking Mac Taylor with them. I think that's fair. It's like all-time quarterback. Mac Taylor's just playing. And then Southwest women's just want to see that flip side Fury matchup. That's pretty interesting to me. And I do think Nightlock could get upset, but I want to see that Fury and flip side matchup.
My honorable mention is Southeast women's. Ozone versus Tabby. Who's going to get the bid? That'll be fun. That'll be fun to find out. So that is going to do it for our regionals preview show. Make sure that you are a subscriber so that you can tune in for our live react show on Sunday afternoon with 7 of the 8 regions in action on Sunday. So at some point we will jump on. I don't know if we'll wait till everything's done or if some regions are done and there's other stuff going on. Maybe we'll do some like real-time score updates on the show, but that'll be happening live in our Discord for full and plus subscribers, and will be available after the fact to all subscribers, including Mini. So go to ultiworld.com/subscribe to check out your options, and we will look forward to breaking it all down next week right here on Deep Look. For Keith Raynor, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. We'll talk to you next week after a mostly Super Sunday this weekend at Regionals. Good luck if you are competing, and we'll talk to you next week.